Catholic pro-life activist was arrested in connection with an alleged altercation with an abortion escort outside a clinic that occurred about a year ago in Philadelphia. The Department of Justice seems to be focusing its efforts these days on nonviolent pro-life activists. Joining me to discuss is Ryan Marie Houck. She is the wife of Mark Houck, who is facing federal charges for that aforementioned altercation. And the Houck attorney, Peter Breen, senior counsel at the St. Thomas More Society, joins us as well. Thank you both for being here. Ryan Marie, tell us a little about Mark and his work and why you think he's now the target of this federal prosecution.
Sure. Well, Mark, we met about 14 years ago, and we actually met outside during a prayerful witness of an abortion clinic down in Philadelphia. We didn't know what one another looked at like, but I immediately knew who he was. He was the most courageous person there, and you know, was just praying with his hands up, and I knew immediately that we were going to meet. So,
why do you think he's being prosecuted now, Ryan Marie?
Because of his effectiveness down there. He, I mean, he has saved countless babies' lives. Just being down there praying the rosary, offering literature, just being there for the women, the men, the couples that go in there. You know, and he's also there for the women that didn't choose life and that have come out and fallen crying in his arms. You know, he's there for healing for them too.
Peter, you are the attorney for the family. From what's being reported, local authorities had assessed this altercation between Mark and this Planned Parenthood volunteer. He allegedly pushed, and they decided not to press charges. The alleged victim then filed a private criminal complaint, which the courts threw out because the guy couldn't even be bothered to show up at the hearing. So how and why do a swarm of FBI agents suddenly show up at Mark Houck's home and arrest him a year after this alleged incident? And give us a sense of that incident.
Certainly. What happened was the local courts, when they threw this out, it should have ended there. In May of this year, while Mark was at the clinic, federal agents served him with a target letter, which said in the letter, it said, please contact us. We want to talk to your attorneys. And so we at the Thomas More Society made 2 phone calls, wrote a detailed communication telling the U.S. Attorney's Office that they don't have a case here. We won a case on similar facts 3 years ago in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. But if you do want to prosecute regardless, we will present Mark in response to a summons, which is the way you do that in the federal system. No response. The next response we got, though, was on September 23rd, that fateful day, where we got a communication saying, we have your client in custody. And it was on that morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, where you've got 20 to 30 federal agents, also state troopers there with long guns, big ballistic shields, battering rams, covering the Houck's front lawn in cars and pounding on that door, nearly pounding it open. And, you know, Mark answering, his children there, Ryan Marie there. And right. when you look at that, there was not a need for a single agent to leave, you know, the service of taking down actual criminals, much less sending 20. And as we've pointed out, look, we were going to present him. If they really wanted to find a spot to get Mark, you know, to pick him up, they actually wanted to arrest him, you could find him every week there at the Planned Parenthood.
Peter, Mark has pleaded not guilty to these federal charges in connection with this alleged altercation. You know the government's argument. They're accusing him of violating the Freedom of Access to Clinics, to Clinic Entrances Act, the FACE Act, which makes it a federal crime to use force with intent to injure, intimidate, or interfere with anybody obtaining or providing reproductive health care services. Now, if convicted, Mark could spend 11 years in prison. What are you expecting, A, and why do you think the government has made such a big show of force in this case and elsewhere?
Well, it is purely intended to intimidate. And I know that it has because our clients have called us from all over the country. We represent sidewalk counselors everywhere. And the point is that when you are sidewalk counseling, normally 99% of the time, no issues. But occasionally you have a very aggressive abortion escort and there can be some jostling. There's invasion of personal space, things like that. Those are not federal violations because the whole point of the federal law was to stop folks from blocking the abortion clinics. And when you're out there on the sidewalk, again, we won this case just 3 years ago in the Eastern District, where there's an altercation where you're dealing with, is it my personal space or yours, where that is not a federal violation at all. Here, it's even worse because this 72-year-old man left the gates of the Planned Parenthood, walked down to Mark's young, then 12-year-old son, and harassed him. That 72-year-old man should have known better, and they were nowhere near any patients or even near the entrance of the clinic. So this is clearly not a federal violation. So, and I'll tell you, Raymond, we take this very, very seriously. We've hired the best criminal defense attorney in Philadelphia. He's one of the best in the country. And so we are planning to take this to trial and to win it there. We've set up a website, defendlifetoday.com, defendlifetoday.com, to help folks with updates and to financially support the case as well, to help us give the DOJ a big black eye and make them go back and stop doing this to anyone else.
Ryan Marie, Mark is not the only pro-life activist who the FBI and the Department of Justice have gone after in recent weeks. Last week, pro-life activist Chet Gallagher's home was raided by the FBI. Chet had been peacefully advocating for the protection of the unborn at an abortion clinic in Tennessee last year. What is your thought as you see this pattern of pro-life individuals like your husband prosecuted by the federal government in this way?
I feel like it's tragic that our government is doing this. I'm confused by it all. I'm heartsick about it. Obviously, our situation, I'm heartsick over what has happened to my children. And I know that other children have been victimized and terrorized and traumatized as well. And it's just, as a mother, it's just something that you would never expect would happen in this country.
Yeah. Peter, in the final minutes here, and I'm curious as I look at the country as a whole, we're seeing these pro-life folks rounded up with, FBI agents and battering rams. At the same time, there are reports of pro-life pregnancy centers being attacked and no arrests are being made. There have been over 80 attacks like these across the country. What do you make of this disconnect? And what is the message the Biden administration's Department of Justice is trying to send to pro-life Americans?
Well, here we are on the eve of an election, and what is the focus of the Department of Justice? It's trying to paint peaceful pro-life Americans as some sort of criminals. So you've got 150, now we're over 150 instances of vandalism, firebombing, et cetera, at pregnancy centers and pro-life churches, 0 arrests. And now you're looking at double-digit arrests for peaceful pro-life people, folks like Mark who didn't even violate the law at all, even folks that may have blocked access but did so in an extremely peaceful manner, singing hymns. They're having, FBI agents with long guns coming out, corralling their children. I mean, horrible, horrible things happening to innocent families, putting them at grave risk. So it's clear the message is intimidation to our folks, to pro-life people and people of faith, and to the whole country on the eve of an election, trying to say those pro-lifers, they're criminals.
Ryan Marie, before I let you go, I know there's been an online fund started for Mark. How can people help?
Pray for us, pray for all pro-lifers, all who are persecuted, and stand up for the truth. Get out there and stand in the gap, just as he did.
Okay, we will leave it there. Ryan Marie Houck and Peter Breen, thank you both for being here. We will continue to follow Mark's trial and this case as it moves forward. Thank you both.